back to another video. So today I'm going to be talking about different WattPad stories that I have enjoyed. I've read a lot, so today we're going to do a list of 5. And not of 5 books, I'm going to do 5 authors just because I enjoy several of each of these artists' books. Before I begin, let me just quickly tell you that most of these are Mojo fan fictions. Like 3 out of the 5 are Mojo. And there's a reason for that. Being that I started reading WattPad stories because once I finished watching Thought and Type, I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And I wanted more content of them, but you know, the series was already over. So I did some digging, and so I just ended up reading WattPad stories. So at first, that's literally all I would read on there. Now I expand to other areas again by talking about the ones that are not Mojo, and then we'll leave the 3 Mojo ones at the end. And this is not going to be in any particular order. I enjoy all of these books for different reasons, and as I go by and recommend them to you, I'll explain a little bit about the book. Of course, I will write down the authors on the screen here so that if you could go ahead and read the books as well. So the first author that I'm going to be talking about is Tainted Kisses XO. So the specific book that I'm going to be talking about right now is Luciano, which is book 1, but I am currently reading. The book is about 2 main characters, Liam Luciano and Faith Crawford. Sorry if I keep looking down, it's just because I'm looking at my notes because I can't remember all the details about all of these books. So basically, Luciano is a mafia, so his whole family is mafia, and he is now the current king, how they call it on here. He basically ends up kidnapping Faith, kidnaps her, but then he ends up protecting her. The story is everything, okay? Every character on here is great. I can't even pick a favorite character. They're all so sassy, and their backs to each other are hilarious. This is very serious. Like, don't get me wrong, like the book deals with mafia, so a lot of horrible shit happens. And just because they're main characters doesn't mean that like the author goes light on them. Like, this is one you have to be a strong person to read, just because something horrible really may happen to your favorite character. They may die, like, you know, like she don't play around, okay? Ashley does not play around. Ashley is the name of the author. Just keep that in mind. But it is hilarious at the same time. The author does a really good job at making all of the characters so funny. Like, if your favorite character isn't Rico or top 3, then me and you can't be friends. Because Rico is one, if not the best, one of the best characters in this whole series. Very funny how this book makes you fall in love with people. Like, if it was real life, you obviously, it's very hard to do. For example, Rico, the person that I just mentioned, is an assassin. And one thing that I really love about this book is that the character really shows different faces to these characters. An example of this is Rico. So I just said he's an assassin, but you get to see such a different light to him that when we think of an assassin, we normally don't try to think of. So you get to see how he is in real life with the people that he cares about. For example, he's obsessed with Frozen. Like, I know, right? Like, you're like, what, an assassin that's obsessed with Frozen? Yes. So in this book, it exists. Another warning, which I didn't mention at the beginning of this, of course, these are stories. Like, if this was real life, you know, this is different, but this is stories. Anything could happen. So you are underage, as I mentioned earlier, don't read these books. But also, if you're an adult and you just don't want to be reading things with certain things that I'm about to talk about, then just keep that in mind and listen to the description of each book before you go ahead and read them. The thing that I want to say about this story that could put people off is it talks about, you know, suicidal thoughts. It talks about, obviously, they're mafia, they're assassins, etc., etc. There's death, you know, violence. If you're really not comfortable with stuff like that, don't read this one. If you are thinking that this is gonna be a highly sexual book, this ain't for you. Like, if that's what you're trying to read, this one in it, you could skip it. The main characters, I barely have any sexual intercourse, and when they do, you know, because of the author's description, but like, she doesn't write smut. Like, she'll skip over it. Tell you that this writer is amazing. Their writing style. This is the one out of all the lists that I could say confidence that I don't know why somebody hasn't picked this up and made it into a movies or a series. Her writing is immaculate. It is like nothing I've ever seen before on WattPad stories. At least, like I said, I haven't come across another writer who writes with so much detail. And once you start reading it, you'll understand what I'm saying. It's a story that really needs to get picked up and turned into a movie. Both books, Luciano and Potori. It's easily one of my favorite books that I've ever read on Wattpad. I have read this book. You know what I'm talking about. Please let down below who is your favorite character, because as I mentioned earlier, I deadass can't pick. I can love how the author makes each character have funny nicknames like Lulu and Cervix. I know, right? Like Cervix, Veggie, like the way that they call each other. I'm telling you, their banter is hilarious. To me, this book is so much better than what I'm making it out to seem. Like, I don't know how to express to y'all how freaking good this book is. Just go ahead and read it. Please do me the favor, and you're gonna thank me later. Okay, let's move on to the second person. This other person is another one that writes really good too. Author is Opium Coca. The specific book that I'm going to be talking about is called The Mojo, but I enjoy all of her other books. I've read them all. Favorite book of hers is called The Wife, but this one is not finished yet. So I lied at the beginning of this video. I said it was gonna be 3 Mew Gulf fan fictions. It's 4. So there's only one other person that I mentioned that wasn't Mew Gulf. The Amma Wanjai or what? Okay. So The Mojo is Mew Anderson is a professor and has a secret crush on one of his students, and Gulf Knight is a college student who of course has a crush on his professor, which is Mew. That sounds completely normal right now, like any other Wattpad Mew Gulf fanfiction. But that's not it. That's not all of to this story. To say it nicely, Gulf is a nighttime entertainer. I said it like that because I wouldn't want to say the specific word here because, you know, we're on YouTube. He is investigating his brother's death, who was also a nighttime entertainer before he passed away. I say passed away, I meant obviously he was killed because Gulf is investigating his death. Gulf doesn't want to become the Mojo. Gulf just follows his brother's footsteps because he was killed at the place where he worked, which is a club called Opium Cocoa. That's why he has to enter that life. The way that this is written as well, it was just recently finished. It is a great story. And that I have to say that has a lot of sexual content, of course. I just mentioned that Gulf is a nighttime entertainer. And it also deals with some death and stuff like that. So that's the warning for that book. Next, I'm going to be talking about True Blood Wanjai. I talk about a specific book of hers because the whole point is that she writes different stories about Mew Gulf, and she's already up to like the 7th generation, and there's already a spin-off too, which I'm currently reading. The 7th generation book hasn't finished, which is called, and the spin-off is called A Lifetime Without You. What I love about this author, like I said, is that she does different generations. This book deals with a different couple, except the 7th generation one, which has 2 couples in the book. That's the first time she ever did that, where she made one book have 2 couples in it. The interesting thing is that every book, it's Mew and Gulf, but they have different names. So it's the same faces, just with different names. If you want to go ahead and get started with this series of books, I guess that's how I should call it. The first generation is Possessive Thorn. Listen to the name, okay? So here's my warning for these books. If you do not like possessive stories about where these men are very possessive and unreasonable and hella jealous, you know, like ridiculously, then you won't like this story. You won't like these stories. Again, it's make-believe. If this was real life, that would be a whole other thing. We shouldn't be trying to get with people who are very possessive and extremely jealous. You know, that's not okay. But this is a story. So if you're an adult and you're good with that, reading content like that, then you go ahead. And this is one that has a lot of sexual content as well. Since I was just talking about one that has several generations, I'll go ahead and talk about this other one next. So this one is Wanjai Erotica. Several generations. The first book is Sugar Daddy. And the couple for that one is Tarn Kerrigan and Type. This one, just like the last books that I mentioned, they both are impreg, I believe that's how you say it, just where like the characters, even though they're male, could get pregnant. And just like the last one as well, what I love about this series of books is that you get to see like previous couples in the new books. I finish a book of one couple, when I go ahead to start reading the new one, I could still know what that previous couple is up to now, and how their life is like, and like how their kids' lives are like, which I love. As you can see, this is a whole other day. I lost some footage from when I filmed the video, so here I am again finishing this video for you guys. So we left out talking about sugar daddy. It's about Tharn, who's rich and he's looking for someone to finally settle down with. So he's tired of just going out and being with random people who just use him for his money. He wants to settle down and be in a proper relationship. Also likes younger people in this book. Type is an 8-year-old boy, so he's a gold digger and he's like a little brat, and he likes to party a lot and stuff like that. Type likes older men. There is an age gap between them. I can't remember the exact age gap, but I'm sure it's a good couple of years, because I know that Thar was already growing up where he had a job and he was rich and everything, and then as I just mentioned, Type is just 18 years old. Something interesting about this book is a book that I ever read where Type is a cross-dresser, so he dresses like as a girl would would normally dress. So he wears like dresses and skirts, etc., etc. Warning to this book is, if you're not comfortable reading things with big age gaps, this is not for you. And also, again, with the possessiveness. And lastly, this is also an impreg where the last author I want to talk about is Zitronella, with the little underbar BL, if I said that right. So the book that I'm going to be talking about specifically for this author is called The Scars. Before, I'm just going to be talking about this one book, but all of her other books, I've read them too, and they're really good as well. Book Mew is a famous actor and singer, but unfortunately he has a stalker. In order to try to deal with this stalker, he hires a bodyguard in recommendation of one of his friends. So the bodyguard is Golf. One thing that I really enjoy about this book is that Golf is very like tough and has like a very cold attitude, and it has to do with his past. I'm not going to give it away, but his past has a lot to do with how his personality is. Book that I read of Mew Golf being versatile, which I really enjoyed. So here they switch roles. Most of the time Mew is still the top, but they do switch at times, and Golf is the top. And I loved reading those smut scenes because it's different from what I usually read on WattPad, where Mew and Golf, you already know that Golf is the bottom and Mew is the top. Have any other books where they're versatile, please let me know, because I love the dynamic of their relationship and it is interesting to see when they switch roles. The story does have a side couple, so Z Zane is the side couple here, and they also have smut as well if you're interested in that. My warning for this book is this book deals with depression, there's talk about suicidal thoughts and body image issues. So if you're not comfortable with none of that, then please skip this one. But this is one book that is probably the most unique one of the Mew Golf books that I've read on WattPad. So I really did enjoy this book. It turns out so unexpected at the end how they all like gather together and help each other. I don't want to say how because I will ruin the book for you, but it was just something very unexpected, and I really enjoyed the way that the author chose to bring all the characters together. Guys, this is it for this video. If you would like me to do round 2 of this, just please let me know down below. And again, please your recommendations down below. It could be Mew Golf or non-Mew Golf. I love reading. Any type of book is okay with me as long as it is very interesting and very captivating. See you guys in my next video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already.